So the Boston Bruins, a team that for the last, I would say, decade and a half, has been a real contender based off of some of these core players they have. Guys like Patrice Bergeron, David Krejci, Zdeno Chara. But as these guys continue to age, get a little bit older, we bring up the question, and over the past couple of days, a lot of the media has been bringing up the question, are the Boston Bruins, is their window closing? We'll be taking a look at that in this video. If you like what we're doing here at Goal Line Hockey, you want to help us get to 500 subscribers, make sure to give this video a thumbs up and a subscribe down below. And let's take a look at the status of the Boston Bruins. Are they still a cup contender moving forward? So a lot of questions for the Boston Bruins up in Beantown this week, as they this past week have been eliminated by the Tampa Bay Lightning in the second round of the Stanley Cup playoffs. Last season in 2019, they went on a really nice run all the way to the Stanley Cup final. Unfortunately, losing Game 7 at home in TD Garden with the St. Louis Blues captain Alex Pietrangelo lifting the cup there in the Garden. Unfortunately, a soul-crushing defeat at home for the Bruins. And now this season, they took a step back, you could say, by losing in the second round. And there's a lot of questions this offseason for the Boston Bruins, and some of them have come out in the past couple of weeks. So we're looking at that here. So, start things off. We got the Boston Bruins, right? You got the forward group, the defensive core, and the goaltending. We're going to go through each scenario and kind of what they look like. So looking at that forward core, it is beginning to age. I mean, David Krejci isn't getting any younger. He definitely looked like a new man here in the playoffs after the time off. He looked really solid in this year's playoffs. It wasn't enough for the Boston Bruins in this series against Tampa, but throughout the playoffs, he looked very solid overall. You have Patrice Bergeron, who didn't get on the board as much as I think he would have liked in this series, but he had a couple of assists here and there, so it's not like he didn't produce. I just think he was hoping to maybe get more goals. But the Boston Bruins, you've got those guys. You've got Krejci, you've got Bergeron. On the wing, you've got guys like David Pastrnak, Jake DeBrusk. Those are some talented pieces that the Bruins are kind of going to be relying on in the future. Now, the situation down the middle behind Bergeron and Krejci, it gets a little bit interesting because we don't know really what they're going to be looking at. They may look to add another center this offseason just as some depth because of how inconsistent Krejci has been over the past year or two. Like I said, he looked very good in the postseason here, but still, long term, I think the Boston Bruins, it would be a smart move to maybe look at adding another center there down the middle. Looking at defense, the Boston Bruins have some questions on defense because you've got Torrey Krug, who is a pending unrestricted free agent, and you have Zdeno Chara, who, what is he, like 90 now? He's getting up there in age. So how much longer are we going to see Zdeno Chara in the NHL? And even if he does, is he going to stay with the Boston Bruins? So defense, we don't know a lot, but there's a lot of questions for that blue line. You have some young guys that will be coming up, which is exciting. You've got guys like Euro Valkainen that look pretty solid. Jacob Zaboral, who we're still on the fence about a guy like him. But they've definitely shown at times they can be reliable defensemen. And unfortunately, they have just, they've got McAvoy, which is huge. But then things start to teeter because you don't know what's going on with Chara or Krug at this point. So there's definitely some questions there for the Bruins. And then in between the pipes, and this is more recent as Tuukka Rask has gone back home to Europe due to some family issues going on. I'm not going to get into the details of that. But there's some issues there with Tuukka Rask. He still has one more year left on his contract. His salary cap hit is going to stay with the Bruins. So do the Bruins maybe look to move that contract out, maybe to Arizona or New Jersey, or just to kill some cap space, maybe even Ottawa, just to take that cap hit while he is, away with his family? That's something that's going to have to get figured out. And they need to pick up a goaltender. I mean, a lot of people have been talking about, why not look at a guy like Jacob Markstrom, a goaltender who's playing with the Vancouver Canucks right now. He's likely not going to be re-signing with the Canucks. Thatcher Demko will likely be the guy moving forward. He looked amazing the other night in the Vegas Golden Knights game against the Vegas Golden Knights. But I think that means that Markstrom is kind of on the way out in there in Vancouver. He may not be at as steep of a price as some of these other guys like Robin Leonard or possibly a Matt Murray. So this could be a good thing for the Boston Bruins, who are trying to stay, keep the cap hits low, and a reliable goaltender, which you may be taking a risk because of the recent injury history, and especially came out that Markstrom had a groin injury, which is even worse. But that's something that the Bruins have to consider. I think a lot of Bruins fans are looking at Jacob Markstrom as a potential option moving forward. We'll see how that goes. They could look at a Braden Holtby. They could look at some of those other guys like Thomas Greiss. I think he could be a good fit there. Bring Greiss and Halak back as a tandem up in Boston. That'll be quite interesting. But those are the kind of guys that I could see the Boston Bruins, taking a look at this offseason. I don't think Tuukka Rask will come back. We'll see how it goes. But as of right now, I'm not too confident that that's going to happen. We'll see, though. Still got a couple months. Probably January is when the season begins. That's really when Boston needs Tuukka Rask back. But based off of him just leaving the bubble and kind of leaving the Bruins out to dry, does upper management kind of have sore feelings toward Tuukka Rask? We'll find out over the next couple of months. But comment down below. What do you think the biggest weakness is for the Boston Bruins? What do they have to address this offseason? Like I said, I think goaltending is huge for the Boston Bruins. And let's be honest, I talked about in the beginning of this video, is the window closed for the Boston Bruins? And it's hard to answer that because we don't know the status of guys like Krug and Chara and Rask. But even if those guys aren't there, and you've got Bergeron, you've got Marchand, you've got Pasternak, you've got McAvoy on the blue line, it's hard to say that the Boston Bruins can't at least compete for a playoff spot next season. Now, it's going to be more difficult because you look specifically in that Atlantic division. You've got the Tampa Bay Lightning, who just kicked your butt in the second round. The Toronto Maple Leafs, who we know they're going to be on a push to win the Stanley Cup next season over the next 2 or 3 years. So now the Bruins have more competition there. You've got, I don't know how I feel about the Buffalo Sabres, but they're in that division. You've got another team like the Florida Panthers that could be a player this offseason in terms of changing things up. So maybe the Florida Panthers are a team that could move up the standings next year, especially coached under Joel Quenneville. That's something to keep an eye on as well. So it may not even be to the fault of the Boston Bruins if they do fall out over the next couple of years. It's just teams around them are continuing to get better. And you look at Detroit, really isn't anywhere close right now, but as they continue to rebuild, they're going to get better. The Ottawa Senators, you have to think they're going to be a little bit better this season. And it's crazy I haven't even mentioned them yet, but the Montreal Canadiens, I mean, look what they did this past season. Another great season from guys like Nick Suzuki, Carey Price leading that team moving forward next year. Now they have Jake Allen in between the pipes as well. It's hard to even say that the Montreal Canadiens, it's hard to argue that they shouldn't be a playoff team next year. So it's going to be tough here for the Boston Bruins. A lot of questions to be answered. But like I said, let me know in the comment section down below. What do you think the Boston Bruins have to do this offseason? Do you believe that the Boston Bruins window is still open? Comment in the comment section down below. And if you like what we're doing here at Goal Line Hockey, want to help us get to 500 subscribers, make sure to give this video a thumbs up and a subscribe down below. Thank you so much for watching, and have a great day.